very generous and broadly accurate introduction. I thought you said I was a scientist, which is, of course true. It's a great pleasure to be speaking here before an audience of people who really do, I think, unlike some other organizations one could think of, really do know the, how do I put this down here, do know the pleasures and the pains of running a business. And I speak feelingly because I was once a director myself of a tile company, which lasted all of about 24 hours. You can say, so I spent a night on the tile. So I know how difficult it is. But I want to echo very much what I think Simon has just been saying. I think after, it's fair to say that the UK economy has finally reached its Costa Concordia moment. Because after 2.5 years of power buckling, the labour is complete and the rotation has been accomplished, and though the damage is still, I think, manifest, and the caissons have not yet been entirely drained of debt, I think you would agree that the keel is off the rocks, and at last we can feel motion beneath. And I have no inclination whatever to hand back the wheel to the people who were on the bridge when we ran aground, and who claimed to have abolished boom and bust because they were frankly only half right. And to continue this nautical metaphor, I believe we should continue on the course that we have set and that George Osborne has set, because we are starting to see signs, I think, of an economic renaissance in Britain of a kind that my generation once thought would never come. And not very long ago, I took a group of business people to India, large business and SMEs, and we were, on arrival, overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of India, as everyone is. And we saw monkeys and snakes and cows and elephants, and right on the first day, 4:30 in the morning, slap bang in the middle of the road, we saw a giant black cat. There it was, at the traffic lights, cool as you please. It was a Jaguar. Now, it may be the company, I mean it was a car, obviously. It may be that the company is now Indian owned, but that car is made in Britain, it's designed in Britain, it's part of an astonishing export effort that last year sent, I think 74,900 Jaguars and Land Rovers from Britain to China, and which means that this country has every prospect of recapturing our position as the second biggest motor manufacturing nation in Europe, if not the biggest, by 2016. Indeed, if you look at the demographic projections, eat your heart out, Vladimir Putin, and look at the demographic projections, there's every reason to think that in our lifetimes, and you all look very young and thrusty and likely to live a very long time, in our lifetimes, this country will not only be demographically one of the biggest economies in Europe, but in output as well. We have every chance of being the biggest economy in Europe. And for somebody who remembers the 1970s and what that was like, and read Robbo, it is very, very moving. And it was moving to see that car there in India, and a customer, and she seemed to be some kind of Bollywood starlet. I don't know what she was doing at 4 o'clock in the morning with a train anyway, but there she was. And she decided to buy this product, not because it was cheap, it certainly isn't, not because of some nostalgia for a faded imperial motoring mark. She bought it because it was the best in the market, and because around the world I see British brands catching on wherever people are in the process of embourgeoisement, which is what we Conservatives support, and which is happening all over the place in huge numbers, whether it's Burberry opening in Makati City in Manila, or Brompton opening a bike dealership in Shanghai. But there is one UK brand, I am proud to say, that is more lucrative than a lot of them put together. And you are sitting in it. Not the Albert Hall, but London. And last year I ventured a prediction that the Olympic athletes, you may remember this conceivably, I said that the Olympic athletes had caused such paroxysms of excitement on the sofas of London, or indeed of Britain, that they had not only inspired a generation, but probably helped to create one as well. And turns out, like all my economic and demographic predictions, to have been entirely correct. In 2013, we are going to have, according to my office, 136,942 live births in London.
Well, we're going to leave the Mayor of London there, who's been banging the drum, as you can hear, for British industry and the British economy there in front of a very receptive audience. It must be said, the Institute of Directors. It's one of the biggest gatherings of business leaders from Europe to take place. It's there in central London, and Mr. Johnson there saying that he supports the Chancellor's deficit reduction plan. He should stick the course, and he's seeing, Mr. Johnson has termed it something of an economic renaissance. Now, the Chancellor is due to speak to that